Hello and welcome to, well, today we're doing something quite different. This is the first time we're actually going to talk about predictions for an upcoming movie. If you've been with us since July, I believe is when we started, we've been watching a different Star Wars movie every 2 weeks and giving you a full spoiler-filled review. And in 5 days, if my math is correct, we will see the release of The Rise of Skywalker. We're recording this at a time that there's been, what, 4 TV spots? Maybe
This point,
five?
I don't know.
I don't know. But we've only gotten 3 main trailers, and we kind of want to talk about what our predictions are without seeing Rise of Skywalker. So we're going to do this now, and then on Friday I will be giving my non-spoiler reaction review. And then on Monday, drop a little bit later than normal, but we will do a deep dive after both of us have seen The Rise of Skywalker. I guess let's start with me. Y'all know me. I am, of course, Mr. Nose, and the one with who I have been watching Star Wars with is Mr. Andrew. So the one big question on most everybody's minds: how does Palpatine return? Why has Palpatine returned?
I almost don't even want to touch it.
Well,
I mean, let's see. If they want to draw from lore, from legends, and all that fun stuff, could be cloning. I mean, everybody's already got all their theories.
think
He's a clone.
I do think this is going to be
he's
essence
this.
transfer.
The only thing I can think of is clone. I don't like the whole. You got the people with the whole Kylo thing or whatever.
That Kylo's
or
possessed.
Raylo.
Yeah.
Oh, he wants their baby.
I haven't heard this one. I
hadn't heard
I
that
have
one?
not heard anything about
You didn't hear
Kylo.
that? That was like the first one.
No, I have not heard anything about them having a baby.
That was his ultimate plan, is they were going to get together and then have a kid, and then he'd inhabit the child.
So
that was like
Dark
the first
Empire
one I ever
all
heard.
over again.
That was
But
like
instead
the first one
of
I'd heard.
Han and Leia's kid, it's Rey and
I'm thinking it's going to be straight cloning, like in the Dark Horse comics. I don't remember what that one was called.
I think that was the beginning of Dark Empire.
Probably. Basically, he just kept inhabiting new clone bodies every
and as
time
he
dies.
burned them out, he would move on, just constantly looking for a stronger host.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be the route that we take, and I think there's not going to be Ian McDiarmid. I think McDiarmid's going to do the voice, but I have this sneaking suspicion that Matt Smith is going to be playing our Palpatine.
So that's a redhead guy.
Matt Smith is best known as playing the 11th Doctor on Doctor Who. He plays Prince Philip in the first 2 seasons of The Crown.
Oh, him.
Yes.
Well, it makes sense. Younger clone.
He looks like he could be a younger Ian
clone,
McDiarmid.
not to mention the fact that the Emperor was supposed to originally have red hair anyways, so...
So I think that's why we haven't heard so much about his casting and where he's going. What his character's doing. Why bring back Palpatine now? What is his end game? Why is he rising, so to speak?
Personally, I feel like it was more of a, okay, we're losing fans with this movie right now, and we're kind of losing it. Let's bring back Palpatine. No, actually, I mean, they did talk about the fact that Lucas always kind of wanted to bring Palpatine back if he'd ever done a continuation of the films. I mean, it kind of leads into my overall theory of what's coming, but I don't know if we'll discuss that now.
Let's talk that at the end, because I think that's going to tie in a lot of our theories.
The Kylo Ren thing.
Yeah. I think that's. We know canonically he's always had plans upon plans upon
for
plans.
immortality.
Yeah. So this feels like he needed something, or he had to lie low because he had to recuperate after being thrown down that shaft in Jedi.
Or this one just hit me. Might be a shot in the dark, but he makes a strong point in Return of the Jedi that he's foreseen everything that's coming. Maybe he knew Vader was going to throw him down that shaft and already had plans.
Well, it would not surprise me to see Palpatine have 5 contingency plans.
But
Speaking of, I don't think there's anything else that we can touch on with Palpatine at this
there's
point.
no information
There's
to touch
just
on it.
There's really no idea where my mind can come from until we start talking about that massive fleet of Imperial Star Destroyers. But
We'll probably call them Death Destroyers.
well, if the idea of mini Death Star tech on the bottom of them is true,
Mm-hmm.
but before we get into that, we talk about contingency plans for Palpatine. We know that on Jakku, that there was what's called an observatory, and that there was a large battle there. Is it possible that the only time during the second trailer, the D23 look, we got this final shot of this pasty white, not quite Sith, angry-eyed, dark Rey with a very unique red lightsaber?
Unique.
The only other place you see it is in a cartoon.
Sorry, I hate that lightsaber. But I also hate the Inquisitor's lightsabers. And a lot of the lightsabers that have come out in recent years, design-wise, but we'll not go there. That's a very long debate.
But what is this Dark Rey essentially a clone, confirming the theory that Rey is a clone, and that this Dark Rey is guarding an observatory?
I don't know. I still personally feel like Rey's going to end up being a Skywalker. I'm still on that. That's me. But, it's possible. I don't know that backstory other than the fact that, part of Operation Cinder, which you learn about in Battlefront 2.
And I think it's in a couple novels, but I couldn't tell you which ones right off the
Well,
top of my head.
Jakku was basically meant to be destroyed to wipe out both the Rebels and the Empire all in one blow. Which, going into what we'll discuss later, would be perfect preparation for
the rise of that Imperial
the rise
fleet.
of the Empire. The return of the Empire. No, I mean, that would make sense, if there's multiple clones, but the thing would become is, why would Palpatine clone himself but make them female? That's my issue with the whole frickin' thing.
Well, what if the only way he could stabilize the clone is to use a different gender? Like, my theory behind the whole Dark Rey is that she is a clone, that there is a Rey clone for every observatory that Palpatine was guarding. For instance, the one on Jakku was supposed to be guarded by Rey, which would explain her vision in the cave. It would explain why she picked up the Force so easily, and it would explain what she's doing on Jakku, why she was dropped there, and kind of explain away her parentage. You combined Palpatine's DNA with, say, Luke's, and twist and manipulate it like the Camoans can do, and here you have as a group of Reys meant to protect these observatories. Rey obviously never made it to the observatory, but the Dark One did, and whatever was inside this observatory, be it some form of holocron, I think possibly the dagger that we see in a very split second in the final trailer, and possibly corrupt her into... Picture this. This is kind of a thought that I have. A dual-wielding Dark Rey in a brief lightsaber duel with a solo light side Rey, battling the light and dark in her.
Maybe.
But of course, maybe this is just all. Maybe this is just all a
my
vision.
My view on it, it's a Force vision of what Rey could become. because I don't think she's done yet with her whole Force Visions things. She had one in the first movie, which kind of showed certain, I guess you could say, it was the origins kind of vision.
Yeah.
You know, this is the path of this lightsaber. Now you're awakened to the Force, and then the next one, she touches the.
She goes into the cave.
She goes into the cave and touches the mirror / giant holocron, and has another Force vision. That's supposed to tell her who her parents are, and in the end tells her absolutely nothing. And then, of course, they later play it off that, oh, she's always known that her parents were junk. Personally, I think that's the fear at the back of her mind, is that her parents were nobody. I don't think she actually acknowledges that her parents are junk dealers. I think it's more of a he's confronting her, and this is her darkest fear, is that that's who they were.
It's unlikely that her parents were nobody with a ship like we saw in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of why I think it's a clone, but I can also understand if it's a vision. Kind of showing her where she could go if she were to truly fall to the dark side.
Yeah.
Speaking of dark side, is there a redemption coming for Kylo Ren?
Well, it depends on which way it all goes. I mean,
worst case scenario, how do you see it playing out?
He's still half and half. He couldn't bring himself to kill his own mom.
But by the end of that film, I feel that
was all targeted at Luke and at Rey, because Rey was just another person who wouldn't trust him.
So you think we might see a little something like he hating Luke and Rey, but still caring for his mother?
Well, I mean, this goes into my whole theory for what's going on with him, anyways. So.
Okay.
I don't know. Should we touch on that now, or?
Yeah, let's touch on that now and see where it goes.
Because I mean, we can continue the redemption talk. It's just
I think that'll come in weave.
So when it comes down to it, I've been asking myself, why would Kylo Ren Ben Skywalker Solo, whatever. I don't care anymore. They confuse us. The main question becomes, why would he so willingly throw himself over to the dark side and then literally fight constantly to go to the dark side, even though he keeps going towards the light all the time? So with how much they keep delving into lore and taking stuff from the legends, the old canon, and twisting it and using it for what they need it to be, which, hey, that's fine by me. I'm not, the way I worded it makes it sound like, oh, that's a bad thing. Oh, they're twisting it. No, they're repurposing. They have to. They made a new canon. So my feeling is I feel like they took the Jason Solo story arc, in which, while he was gone mysteriously, and that was one thing about that whole storyline that just kind of, I think, bothered people. He just disappeared.
Disappeared for 5 years.
And then suddenly had this thing. So in that storyline, Jason finds that there's a new threat coming to the galaxy, and in order to protect his daughter as well as to ready the galaxy for this threat, he basically decides to throw himself over to the Sith. Now, he also was one of those ones who believed there was no light or dark side. It was, because of his teachings from Berger. Yeah. But the thing is, he throws himself over to the dark side and is willing to do anything and everything to build basically an empire to stop the threat. And it's the same thing if you go back to the Old Republic with Darth Revan. Him and Darth Malak went dark side, one because they were manipulated by an emperor, which there's a nice little fan theory for you.
Yeah, I can't remember that emperor's name.
Yeah, I don't remember the name. There's a fan theory currently trailing, but since they haven't confirmed whether Old Republic is canon yet, there's a fan theory that Palpatine actually is the Emperor from Old Republic.
That would make him like 5,000 years old.
I know. But the point is they talk about him jumping bodies repeatedly in order to survive.
Well, that would make sense.
But basically, they all go dark in order to protect the galaxy. Now, they end up going astray. And a theory I ran by him is this idea that Ben is kind of obsessed with Anakin Skywalker. So, he decides he goes to Endor to find Vader's helmet. Takes Vader's helmet, and then ends up going to this new planet where the Death Star is. Maybe because he senses something and decides to go there. And I leads into, you see a sequence in all these trailers and spots in which Rey and Ben are in the throne room of the Death Star wreckage. And I almost feel like that's going to be the tipping point in the movie in which things start to be revealed.
I do think that's going to be about halfway through the film.
But I think he goes there, and I don't know if maybe he comes across the Emperor's ghost, maybe, or this is where he somehow comes in contact with Snoke. But my feeling on it is, I don't feel that the First Order has anything to do with rebuilding the Empire. I think the First Order was built under Snoke with the full intention of basically just seizing control of the galaxy for their own lot.
Okay. No.
And Ben joins Snoke. Ben starts listening to Snoke for the simple fact that he finds out that the Emperor is still alive, and when he talks about, I want to finish what you started, grandfather, I think that's him talking about trying to kill the Emperor.
Two issues that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Ben would have gotten the helmet before Force Awakens.
Yes.
So if that would have been after he destroyed the temple.
Yes.
So he would already have been, quote unquote, corrupted by Snoke.
Well, no, I'm just saying maybe he got the... How do we know when he got the helmet?
I have a hard time believing that Ben would have picked up the helmet before betraying Luke.
No, you're talking about the start of his path after he leaves?
Yes, because if he's going to Endor, the forest moon of Endor, to pick up the helmet, and then hearing something through the force from either the ocean moon of Endor, I can't remember the name of that ocean planet, but I believe that's not going to be the forest moon. So he would end up going there to find something before Force Awakens, somewhere in the...
Well, different timeline of events.
Okay.
I mean, my main issue is they're not explaining why it is that he is so adamant on going dark side.
And
there's got to be a reason, and it's got to be more than simply Luke. The whole thing between him and Luke. Snoke had got his hands on him somehow.
What I am thinking is kind of playing off yours is something a little bit more like this. Snoke kind of corrupts him before anything with the Force. So he destroys Luke's temple. Snoke gets him to try to channel his power and to tell him the best way to channel your power is to find your grandfather's helmet.
Well, there's also that whole thing with the Knights around searching for the lightsaber.
For the lightsaber and other miscellaneous dark side artifacts. But say he finds his helmet and then he hears something. And he travels to the wreckage of the Death Star to find Palpatine isn't gone. Mm-hmm. And what he keeps mentioning is, I'm going to finish what you started, is the destruction of the dark side, of Palpatine, but doing it from a place of dark, though, thinking that only the dark side can do that.
That's where I'm going is, I feel that Ben allies with Snoke simply because Snoke, if the First Order, if that part of my theories are right, is not technically an extension of the Empire, but just its own government, set aside, well, then what greater threat is there to Snoke than the rebirth of the Emperor?
So what we know is that during Operation Cinder, the highest-ranking officials of the Imperial Navy and Imperial government were sent into the dark regions basically to lay low and rebuild. There's nothing that's saying they couldn't have done that and then had a splinter faction go off and create the First Order. Mm-hmm. So I could see that happening, and then we get this big giant battle at the end that's Imperial, First Order, and essentially Resistance or the New Rebellion. Yeah. And that's kind of what we kind of see, but you don't see like
Yep.
the
Well,
newer Star Destroyers.
well, that's just it. It's all rebel forces against the old Imperial twos with Death Star beams.
Yep.
Well, maybe Death Star beams. No confirmation, but more than likely.
Yeah.
That would have been pulled from Old Canaan, except for the fact that in Old Canaan it was the Eclipse, which was a like Star Destroyer the size of Snoke's that had basically a planet cracker in it.
I think that the Eclipse is part of New Canon, but for the life of me, I can't place where it is. But
Well, it was the Emperor's flagship in Dark
and
Empire.
he was hiding it in the core, the inner core.
I don't remember where he hid it. I could have swore it was somewhere. Basically, it had a Death Star laser, except it was only strong enough to like wipe out like a continent as opposed to an entire planet. So like a Phase 1 blast from the Death Star.
So we talk about, I bring up this idea of Imperial and First Order splitting sometime before The First Awakens. The only person that we have seen that we know is coming back is General Hux. Is he even worth bringing back based on the characterization from The Last Jedi?
I think with better writing, he will be. Hux, like we discussed in the last review video, they turned Hux into the villain comic relief in that movie. They made him out to be almost like worthless.
Mm-hmm.
The first movie, he comes off. He's a tyrant. He is literally. He's basically like Himmler.
It's alluded to that in the Phasma book that he kills his own father.
Mm-hmm. But come this one, they turn him into comic relief for the film, and I'm hoping in the next movie they bring him back.
They're bringing in a new character, and for the life of me, he's played by a great actor, and for the life of me, I can't remember who it is. But there is an opportunity, if done right, that he can essentially be redeemed and back to what he was. Now that Snoke's gone and isn't going to throw him around.
Now he just gets thrown around by Kylo.
I think this is set a year after Last Jedi, I think.
No, I thought they said a couple of years. Thought there was more of a gap.
It's going to be somewhere between 1 and 3 years. We'll agree with that.
Yeah.
That gives time for the First Order's Navy to realize how unstable Ben is, how unstable Kylo is. And I could see kind of like...
realized that already?
Well, there were a couple instances where people just kind of turned around and ran away when he just walked out of a lift, out of a room. So yeah, it's possible that they're already seeing it. Believe it or not, the only thing that I can think of to talk about that we have not mentioned in any form is the Rise of Skywalker. Does this mean Luke's a Force ghost? Will he be back in the flesh? What's going on with Luke? We know he'll be back.
I guarantee he'll at least be back like Obi-Wan and A New Hope. I don't know about Force Ghost. I kind of expect it, but I also expect to see Hayden Christensen make a return as Anakin Skywalker. Figure Yoda's going to be there at some point. And, I mean...
Now this, I don't know if this is necessarily a theory or a fanboy moment that I have. What if Ben dies sacrificing himself to kill Palpatine? Probably with that dagger. Because that dagger's probably going to turn out to be the dagger of Mortis, which is the only thing that can kill Force beings. So what if Ben dies killing the body of Palpatine, and it takes the Force ghosts of Anakin, Luke, Obi-Wan, Yoda,
I hate that theory.
and it takes all of them to kill his Force essence?
Yeah, I've heard that theory from other fan groups. I hate that theory because it's just literally
It
it
just,
hits me as fanboy.
it does.
It does.
It does.
Now you struck me right there. I could almost see it more as being that Ben allows himself to be possessed by the Emperor, and then Rey
And then
kills him.
Rey kills him with the deck. Because we only see it in the one ship where they're destroying the
Altar
of the charred
Vader.
helmet
Yeah.
in some bright white room that looks like it's the Tantive 4, but it unlikely.
There is a Carillion Corvette.
Right, but why would the charred helmet of Darth Vader be in the
Maybe it's Ben's personal ship. I don't know.
That would be awkward.
Look, Mom, I found your old ship. that does make you wonder if that's the Tantive 4.
It does, because I don't remember what supposedly happened to it in the novels.
Well,
I know
old Kanan, it was destroyed.
Yeah.
Like it was basically used as target practice by the Imperial fleet. That's what they usually did with captured ships.
Yeah, it's...
It makes you wonder, though.
That would be one way to redeem Kylo Ren, and I honestly think if we look at the movies, the main movies, the whole overarching theme...
But that would hurt all the Rylos fans out there.
Depends on how they do it. If you can do...
I'm being smart.
I know. But there is a way that you can do it where this is going to sound very awkward. That you have a battle on the Death Star, say, and this battle brings them together because they see the greater threat, that they agreed to work together for a time, that they acknowledge their feelings for each other and do whatever Reylo fans do. Ben allows himself to be possessed, to be killed by the soon-to-be mother of his child, who is the Rise of Skywalker. Continuing the bloodline.
I'm gonna go throw myself on a lightsaber. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying I want to see it happen.
No,
I want Ben to die a villain.
I'm gonna put it this way. I don't have an issue with the whole Ben and her thing. I have an issue with that is where our culture has gone at this point. Every single major movie trilogy's got to be about, oh, they get together. This isn't Twilight, it's Star Wars. Grow up. But I could see that.
It feels to me that this trilogy has all been about bringing true balance to the Force. Yeah. You have the whole Skywalker saga is supposed to be about bringing balance to the Force. That's what Anakin was supposed to do. He destroys the Jedi, who are essentially 10,000 strong or whatever their numbers is, bringing it up to like 2 people, essentially 2 on each side. And then he destroys the Sith. And then it's only Luke and his dark side equivalent in Snoke in the Unknown Regions. Rey and Kylo come up and there's balance. Ben and they're dead, and now it's 1-on-1, but Rise of Palpatine, we have an imbalance again. What my original theory was that this needed to end with balance. Somehow there needs to be balance in the Force. Usually that means one good user, one dark user. One light side, one dark side. What if they're able to destroy Palpatine and they're both alive, but Rey is the embodiment of the light side, Kylo is the embodiment of the dark side, and they essentially either contain Kylo or I can't think of the term. I don't want to either contain him or oh goodness, no, I can't think of the term of the word. To force him away to where he can't do anything.
Exile.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, essentially exile him to a planet where he has no way of removing. The problem with that, though, is that has been done before in Star Wars history, and that rose to the Sith Empire or...
well, the problem is I think everyone just keeps misconstruing balance of the Force anyways. I mean, the Jedi view was, oh, he's going to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. I don't think it really matters how many light or dark side users there are. There's the Force. The imbalance comes from what people are doing. You could have 50,000 Jedi, and it's not going to really affect the balance of the Force. It's more a matter of the problem is the Jedi were idiots because they believed what they were doing was right. So,
So yeah, it just kind of comes down to how is it going to be balanced? Does that balance come from a redemption of Kylo Ren, or does it come from his death in a pure dark side manner? I'm hopeful that he kills Palpatine in a dark side manner, but with this conversation, I'm leaning more towards it being more likely that he'll die redeemed, killing Palpatine, just like his grandfather did.
yeah. My main thing though is it's difficult to make predictions because the way these movies have been written so far. I mean, it's like, my God, you had these predictions and ideas from, the first one, and everyone was,
Yeah,
nobody was close. And then come the next movie, I mean, I heard some rock solid ideas for what was coming in Last Jedi, and
felt like it was just thrown out to surprise people.
yeah, I mean, it was literally like everyone just goes, huh?
We should have mentioned this off the top. There's supposed screen leaks. I haven't read them. I'm actually, after we're done recording this, I'm staying away from all marketing because I want to be surprised. I want to go into this surprised.
Oh, I feel I might be surprised.
There's a chance that we hit the nail on the head with some of these. There's a chance that we're not. And I'm sure we'll talk about it when we go into our dive.
But the only one that I'm fairly certain on is that them meeting in the Emperor's throne room on the Death Star
kind of brings
is
everything
going to
together
bring
and
everything together and start explaining things.
and then push us into the
And
final
then
third.
I do feel like they end up teaming up.
I think they're going to need to team up on to destroy Palpatine. I think that's going to be the only way they can do it. There's actually one other thing that I wanted to talk about before we get out of here, and unless you have other moments, but is it important who Snoke is?
I want clarification. That's all I care about. I don't care if it's a 2-sentence thing that Kylo brings up. Well, Snoke was this. Because, to be honest, they completely messed that up in the last 2 movies because they gave absolutely zero backstory to him or the First Order in the films.
Yep.
You were literally brought
there.
into a new storyline and left going, who's this dude?
Why is Leia a general now? Yeah, they just kind of throw you in, and I have to admit I'm ready for material to cover that 30 years between Jedi and Force Awakens.
Well, I don't even care necessarily about the 30 years. But when it comes down to it, it's a matter of all you got to do is go, yeah, Snoke used to be like the Emperor's Grand Vizier or something like that.
I still think he's going to end up being... I think there's going to be 2 chances. I think Snoke has a possibility to be one of the deteriorating bodies that Palpatine jumped into. I think there's a chance that he's going to be a discarded apprentice, kind of Inquisitor kind of person,
Could be a hand,
something like that, or I think the least likely situation is going to be that he's Darth Plagueis. But I don't remember.
I keep shooting him down every time he brings it up.
I don't remember if it's canonical or not, or if it's just from the Darth Plagueis novel that Plagueis was a moon.
Yes. Plagueis was a moon from the novel.
So we know that novel
in
stuff.
The movie, they never say who he was. The movie reference, it's a literal reference, but everyone kind of caught it as being, oh, that was Palpatine's master.
Yep. And it'll be very weird if they go back into it and then Plagueis is not Palpatine's master.
The problem, well, here's the thing, and I'm fine with the Plagueis novel being non-canon for one simple reason, is it was completely contradicted Palpatine's story. Because Palpatine makes a point of saying his apprentice killed him in his sleep, and in the novel, he poisons him and kills him while he's laying on his bed because he can't move because he's been poisoned. It was, yeah.
Well, that can be explained away.
I wasn't a fan.
Embellishing
Well,
the story.
I wasn't a fan of that book, anyways. That book was kind of bad.
Okay.
But, I don't know. I don't think he is a clone. I think he is somebody who tried to take out Luke at some point because he saw Luke as being a threat to him, and Luke messed him up. Because it sure looks like he took a lightsaber to the face.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he was basically probably somebody trying to seize power for himself. Luke was a threat to him, and I feel like he probably maybe knew that the Emperor was going to be coming back, and the Emperor was
and that's why he wanted Ben.
And that's why he wanted Ben. He wanted to exploit the power. Or he wanted to train Ben up and turn him over to the Emperor to become the new host.
That'd be interesting. That's an interesting thought. So, I feel like we asked more questions of this movie than we gave thoughts on how it's going to turn out. So, do you have any other theories, any other thoughts you want to get into before we kind of just do a speed round of our final thoughts?
The only thing I can say is I told him we watched through all the stuff, all the trailers and spots and teasers before we did this. It would have been nice if somebody out there had just taken them all, cut them into pieces, and tried to put them as close, at least in rough order, that you could guess.
Kind of try to watch it in
there's
order.
too much stuff. They put so much in. I don't even know how they're going to fit it all into.
It's going to be the longest Star Wars film released
by
6 minutes. So it's going to be just a little bit longer than The Last Jedi.
But it's just looking at it. There is so much. Like, he didn't know that I recently, one of the teasers you see them in the Millennium Falcon. There's a green lighting to it. Well, there's a picture out now that shows this giant, like, fanged maw thing in space trying to eat them. And I'm going, where is that going to come in?
This is the first time where I saw Sith troopers in action. Poe flying the Millennium Falcon. Why are they on the Death Star? I understand why you bring it in to tie the trilogies together. But if you give me a duel between Kylo and Rey on the Death Star, playing Duel of the Fates like that spot did, why do it at all? Why rehash everything? Like, I get teasing it, but if you're just saying, let's take episode 6 and episode 1 and a little bit of episode 3 because it's going to be...
Well, the thing is
make your own story.
Duel of Fates was the Obi-Wan versus Anakin music too. They just rehashed it. So
that's I don't mind
I
hints.
Get your point.
I don't mind hints and throwbacks. I have a problem when you just turn everything.
It's marketing.
They
are literally fighting hard to try and get viewers at this point.
This movie will make $1 billion. It will. Will it make 2? Well, no, unlikely. I think we're going to top out about 1.5, 1.6.
Well,
that's
what I find funny is the initial prediction from that algorithm thing they had said it was going to bomb. They're like, it's not going to do as good as the other ones, and I'm going, what are you talking about? It's the final Star Wars movie in a 9-movie saga. Every Star Wars fan, regardless of how mad they are, is going to.
We're going to go and see. We're going to see it once, at least once, to see if it's good or if it's bad. If it's good, we'll go back multiple times, like the $900 million U.S. domestic box office of The Force Awakens. And then I couldn't even tell you what Solo or Last Jedi did. They weren't flops, but they did not hit what they were hoping.
Solo, I think, would have done better if not for Rotten Tomatoes.
No. Solo would have done better if it was pushed back to December, didn't go up against Deadpool 2 and Infinity War on a 3-month marketing binge.
There was that, but there was also the really bad press. True. For about a year leading up to it.
I won't.
Basically, the press, the fans, as well as the original directors and whatnot for it, damaged that movie because, honestly...
It's not bad when you're looking at it on its own.
Him and I were supposed to go see it. I backed out of doing it for financial reasons, but also because of the fact that I heard all the bad press, and I heard from people who went and saw it, who all just complained and said it was horrible. And then I watched it when it came out and went, this movie's actually pretty good on its own.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I didn't really honestly see what the issue was.
I think a lot of it came with the recasting of Solo and then the loss of Lord and Miller. But that kind of gets way off topic.
No, but you brought it
but
up.
if you mentioned that, but if we get like a Han Solo Force Ghost and it's not Harrison Ford and it's Alden Ehrenreich, I think that's his name, that's going to send
There's
people
going to be riots.
Crazy.
There will be theaters
burning.
But
I think even if you give us a Han Solo Force Ghost moment, that's going to do it, because he shouldn't be a Force Ghost. He never learned. But that's... Okay. What I want to do as we close out here is just kind of go yes or no on a couple topics. And we'll see how well we did when we do our deep dive. Will Ben be redeemed by the end of the film?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Main reason being that's the whole theme of all the Star Wars movies is that they get redeemed or they get thrown down a shaft.
Dark Ray, clone or Vision?
Vision.
Clone. Ray's parents, absolutely nobody or somebody important?
Somebody important.
Somebody important. Luke returning as a Force Ghost or Flesh and Blood?
Force Ghost or Force Voice. I don't see Flesh and Blood.
I will agree with that. Snoke, important or not important? Do we find out more about him that makes him important?
I think we'll learn a little more about him, but I don't think he, in the grand scheme, was as important.
I think we'll get a few lines and find out that he was just some dude. Will Hux be redeemed in the eyes of the First Order? Will he go back to where he was, or
no? I don't think he's going to be in control anymore. I'm hoping to see a redemption in terms of fans' eyes, or at least mine, because I don't really want to watch another movie where he's
General Hugs calling General Hugs.
Well, that and the whole, I'm going to get thrown into the floor, then I'm going to get thrown into this console later in the movie. I just want to see him going back to the tyrannical villain he was.
All right, last one. Is the return of Palpatine going to end up being a overarching plan by the character that goes from before his death to now? Or is it going to end up being one of those things to where it feels more like they shoehorned him in to save the series?
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh,
because it's kind of like a feeling. Is it going to feel like forced and shoehorned in, or do you think they can craft the story in a way that makes it feel like it's an overall plan?
We've already seen the differences between Abrams and Johnson?
Yep.
In which the first one seemed to have a fleshed out backstory that he was keeping secret.
Yep.
And then it went to Last Jedi, where Rian just seemed to be playing with all the pieces he was handed. And now we're coming back to Abrams again. And I'm just like, I know he's literally said, oh yeah, I've got all this backstory and all these things already planned out, like the Knights of Ren. He's like, yeah, we kind of threw him in the first movie to give you a taste, and then Johnson just didn't use them for anything, and now we're going to throw him back in there, but we're not going to tell you much. I feel like it was an original plan that may have almost gotten thrown out, but maybe they're realizing they need to throw him back in it because of the fans.
Yeah, I think this is going to end up being
getting that confirmation
a plan from that JJ had but never was realized by Johnson. Now, you mentioned something there that brings one more if-or. The Knights of Ren. Are they going to end up being important or just cannon fodder for Rey to cut through with a lightsaber?
I don't think they're going to be in the culmination. I think they're going to end up being something they follow up on later with Disney Plus, personally. Because just the way he said it in an interview, he made a point. I'm not going to tell you much about the Knights of Ren. I feel like they are going to make an appearance. They are going to play some role at some point in the movie, and then they're going to go away.
I think they're going to end up cut down in the middle of this movie, either by Rey or by Kylo. I think one of those two is going to cut them down.
No, there's
and
one
I think
sequence
if they do,
looks like Kylo's killing the Knights of Ren.
Yep. And I think if they do a Disney Plus series, it'll be more on them tracking down artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I can think of. Do you have anything else? With that being said, of course, go ahead and leave comments in below. Go ahead and if you have your thoughts, tell us what you think about our theories. Leave your own in the comments below. And as always, if you are enjoying what you're seeing there, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And on Friday, we'll see you for Rise of Skywalker. But until then, have a great night.